Hello, welcome to a Friday Reads, where I talk about what I've read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next, and welcome if you are new here. I just got a huge bump in subscribers this week thanks to Jess, who is fantastic, and you for sure follow her if you follow me, because it's where most of you guys came from when you came to watch my Monday video, which I really appreciated because I put so much work into that video, and it's receiving great reception, and it makes me happy. And normally I do my book hauls at the end of these videos because I only buy usually a couple books a month, so I talk about them here, but I'm going to do it at the start because I'm going to be referring to some of those books in the what I've read section. It makes sense. So first, I got a copy of The Last Contista, which, if you don't know, I read this in January. I listened to the audiobook, but I needed this. It's a stunning book, and I needed it on my shelf. This is a story with like a sci-fi middle grade with a young female Latinx protagonist who is smart but loves stories, and when I have kids, I want this to be readily available on my shelves, and I want to reread it again one day. But also, just look at this cover. This is stunning. I had to buy it, especially since it won the Newbery, and like I'm sure it'll still look pretty with the metal that they'll put on it or whatever. Like that metal's usually pretty classy, but I like that I have a copy before those printings came out. I also picked up from the library to read Noor, and we're going to talk about this more later in the video, but I saw this on a shelf and I just couldn't not pick it up. I don't know. It's been staring at me at bookstores, but I have mixed experiences with Nnedi Okorafor, and you know, this has cost the full price of a hardback, but it's a novella, and that's always a struggle in my brain financially. And the last book I picked up, I actually mentioned in Monday's video, and that's Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I was wrong in the video. It is not marketed towards YA, it's marketed towards adult, but I guess it has, I think, enough crossover. Maybe it's like a good bridge book. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. I'm excited to read it, and this cover is stunning. I saw it in person, and you can kind of see it has this cool reflecty thing, and then, like, it has gorgeous art. So, like, where was the title page? What? So, production-wise, great, and all of my friends have been loving this, and I think when I want, like, a fantasy romance, but not quite fantasy romance, like a fantasy with a strong romantic element, I'm gonna pick it up. So, I saw it, and it feels nice. It has a nice matte feel. I was a sucker. All the books are just so stunning. Like, look, like, so stunning. So, anyways, but now we'll talk about what I finished, and I finished 4 things. Because apparently I was just in a reading mood, and I still am. So I finished The Vanished Birds, which I talked about last week, and I would have a copy in my hand right now if my bookstore had it. I'm going to order myself a copy because I don't have the paperback or the hardback because this book is vastly underrated and makes me so sad. I love it. I'm making a review video for it. I think I filmed my thoughts. We'll see if they're coherent. I haven't, like, looked at the footage. I don't know for any other people who make booktube videos. Sometimes you film something and you don't know till you look at it how coherent or not coherent you are. But I am so excited to get a copy of that book and reread it one day. It's one of my favorite books of the year so far. Like, that's what I can say. I'll probably have more coherent thoughts in that review and the wrap-up at the end of the month, but I loved it. I adored it, and I'm adoring it even more now that I get to hear Evie's thoughts as she's reading it, because I buddy read it with Laura, and now Evie's reading it, and every time Evie mentions something, it's like, oh yeah, I loved that thing, and oh, this thing was even more intentional than I thought it was. Masterful debut. Like, oh my gosh, how is that a debut? I also finished Lisey's Story by Stephen King. This is my favorite Stephen King. It's not a 5-star, but it's my favorite Stephen King, and I really enjoyed my time. I have, like, some issues with just, like, the premise, or at least the title. I have issues with the title, and I need to, after I film the end of the spoiler vlog I have for my patrons, where I discuss how I like a lot of the story, but I hate the title of this book, because I don't know. I don't really know how to express it, because honestly, it's not that important, because the book itself, I think, is actually really engaging and compelling and just like a good time. So I had a lot of fun doing that, because I was knitting a lot this weekend, and I was listening to the audiobook while knitting. I also immersion read that book, and it worked really well, because there were a lot of accents in this book that my imaginative brain could not have done justice, and the narrator was phenomenal. And I was creeped out at times, but mostly I was just really like, what's happening? Like, what's happening? And that was intentional. The way the plot and intrigue was crafted and doled out, I think, was really well. It was really well done. So, finished that. And then I also started and finished, apparently, since the last video, Hunt the Stars, which was on my TBR. So I didn't, like, go completely off the rails, I did pick a book that was on my TBR, and this is a sci-fi romance. Very sci-fi romance. Like, if you like Sarah J. Maas, maybe try this book out. Although I do prefer Sarah J. Maas over this one, mainly because although I never go to Sarah J. Maas romance books for plot, they still at least engage me. And this book, although the plot wasn't bad, whenever we were in the plot and we weren't looking at character interactions, we weren't looking at the romantic pining or tension, whenever we were in the plot, I was like, I don't care. And so I think too much page time was given to the plot that I did not care about. The world was fine, but it actually almost felt like a fantasy world. Like, it felt like what I'm used to in fantasy romance, but in space and with space tech and kind of a space mystery plot. But in terms of, like, the races you interact with and their powers felt a lot like the powers of, like, Fae and things like that. I had a good time. I had a good enough time that I'm going to pick up the next book because I see what other romantic lines might be happening. So it was a fun time. It was perfect for when I just wanted that formulaic, predictable romance plot sort of thing. But I really did wish that the meat of the plot had compelled me a bit more, because it was the weirdest experience when I would go from, I can't put this down, this is amazing, to, oh my god, I'm bored. Why am I doing this? And what sucked is I listened to the audiobook for the first half, or first third. And I really like the narrator. It's actually the same narrator as The Last Contista. But I didn't like how she did the male voices, or at least the male voice of the romantic lead. And that's very important to me. So once the setup was done, I switched to physically reading, which was fine when I was in the romance sections. But when I was in the exposition sections, I kind of wished I had the audiobook. But I'm not good enough to, like, keep switching between them like that. So it was a mixed bag, but a fun time. It was perfectly fun. And then, like I mentioned, I picked up Noor, and I've read it in one day. I mean, it's short. It's like 200 pages. And I have had a good amount of time this week to relax because I submitted my dissertation to my committee, so I don't have to stress for a little bit. I have like a month. I mean, I'm going to set up my slides and do other things, but I took a day off, and I went to the library, and I saw this, and I picked it up. So I have had a mixed experience with Nnedi Okorafor's work. I have read Lagoon, the entire Binti trilogy, and Remote Control. I have not read there's a death one. I think it might have been her debut. And I think there's a few more that I haven't picked up. I have not picked up the middle grade YA trilogy that's out, the Akata trilogy. So, and I do want to try that one out because that's one where I know the most success has happened with my friends, and at this point I've almost read her entire backlog, so I might as well keep going. But normally she's like a 3 to 4 star read author for me, and my biggest complaints are always, why can't I connect to the characters, and why is everything so fast? But my biggest pros are always like, this is such a cool concept, I love this idea. And I was really apprehensive about Noor because a lot of my friends don't like it. I just checked on Goodreads. They all, don't like it strong. They all gave it 3 stars, right? And we all know 3 stars isn't a bad rating, but it's not a glowing endorsement. And so I was, with my experience with Nnedi Okorafor and all my friends giving her 3 stars on this book, I was like, let's see. So I immersion read it with the audiobook narrator. So I physically read while listening, which was great because I always think that the narratives she gets for these books are fantastic. This isn't a Robin Miles one, but I'll put her name on the screen. I highly recommend audiobooks by her. She was great. And I loved this one. Like, I really loved it. I didn't think it was as fast-paced as her other stories, although it goes at a quick pace. It's about a week in the course of 200 pages. And I loved the main character and her interactions with this person she meets along the way and the struggles they were going through. And the thematic lens we were looking at, I thought was really interesting. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's like a 5-star read, but it might be. Before this, Remote Control was my favorite, but this might be my favorite now. I don't know. It's definitely the one that out of all of them I've wanted to buy because of the cover. I think the cover is really pretty, but I loved the world building. I really liked the main character and her struggles, and I really liked the character she meets. My only concern is that there are 2, like, sort of animal companions, and they are awesome, and I don't know what happened to them. But it's only a 200-page story. But I really liked it. Also, like, great commentary on, like, huge corporations and how we become so reliant on them and allow them to get away with so much. And our solutions are understood to not be real solutions. I liked a lot about it. I just finished it. I'm, like, fresh off of finishing it. But I was pleasantly surprised. So Go figure. A lot of people's least favorite, one of my favorite. I do know a lot of my friends actually only listened to it on audiobook and were disconnected or confused. Like I said, I immersion read it, so I think that solved all of my problems. If there would have been problems, I didn't notice any. I liked the writing. Yeah, all of my complaints that normally exist with other works of hers didn't exist here, and I really enjoyed the concept, so that was cool. So those are the things I finished. What am I working on? Winter's Heart. I was hoping to have it finished before this to be like, ha ha ha, 5 things and no more Winter's Heart. But I'm only 75% of the way done. I probably will have it finished tomorrow. Well, by the time you're seeing this, yesterday. And it's not bad. I think I like it more than Path of Daggers. Some really important things have happened, and there's... I shouldn't be so excited for like the simplest things, but one of our main characters actually went to another main character and asked for help. And I'm like, really? You did it? Growth. I'm so proud of you. Like, it's ridiculous, because that's the type of vibes you get in this series, where no one asks anyone for help ever, and it's the most infuriating thing in the world. But that was really cool. I mean, I don't dislike it. I think this one's completely fine. It's going by really quickly for me, so that's good. For sure, though, every time a dark friend or a chosen one or anything happens, I'm just like, woof, all over my head. I don't know. You're just implying to me that something's gonna happen, and it's supposed to shock me later. Which is what I do with every Wheel of Time book. I could be better and take notes and like catch things, but I never do. I'm also reading Reclaim the Stars. This is a short story anthology. I've only read the first short story, but I have started it. And that was the Anna Marie McLemore one, and it was wonderful. It was great. That story was this premise. It's kind of a sci-fi short story. And we have these 2 princesses, one with like fire power and one with ice power. So kind of sci-fi fantasy. And they are fighting for access, I think, to this trade route in space, which is the sci-fi part, because apparently everything in space is about trade, which is probably the same with like fantasy stuff on the ground, but we never think of it that clearly. Now that I'm thinking this out loud. But regardless, they have to fight for something, but then things are revealed and you see the resolution of that fight, and it was really cool. Like, I was really invested for like the 14 pages I was there. It was lovely. And now what am I going to get to next? Isn't that the question? I have not known my reading mood and have been struggling to figure out what to get to next, even though I've been reading a bunch. So I have some options. One of them is one of the books I bought. And that's partially why I bought it, because sometimes I get in the mood for wanting to be really connected, and a lot of people say they have emotional investment in this one. And so Daughter of the Moon Goddess is definitely on my list to maybe pick up while I've been in this huge reading mood. So we'll see. It's not on my TBR, but I don't really care. On my TBR that I've actually read a chapter of is Ancillary Justice. And I'm interested in reading that one because I think there are, like, not connections, but there are similarities between the main character of that one and the main character of Noor. And I kind of like when I, like, compare thematic things to each other. So there's a chance I'll read that. I also will need an audiobook after I finish Winter's Heart. And I could be responsible and read the next nonfiction book for the nonfiction book club. But it's a little early. So my options are, what's it called? Queen of Blood, I believe, by Sarah Beth Durst. I have that on audio, and I have access to the new release Engines of Empire, which is another book from Monday's video that I was like, I kind of want to read this. Additionally, on my Kindle, another book from that Monday video that I want to read is How High We Go in the Dark, which is also on my Kindle. So I don't know. That is the short of it. I'm pretty on top of my TBR that I actually set in February, so I have a lot of wiggle room. The only one that I think I really need to get done is Ancillary Justice, which I am interested in. So we'll see what happens. So those are the things I might read. I don't think I have other things I wanted to say. Just welcome to everyone who's new here. Thank you for everyone who watched Monday's video, and let me know what you're doing this weekend. What are you reading? What are you watching? I have only been watching ice skating. That's it. That's all I've done. Figure skating started, and that's all I do. I knit and I watch figure skating. I actually can't even knit while I watch figure skating because I'm like watching it. And I'm really excited because the night I'm filming this is the men's free skate, which would be awesome. So that's what I've been watching. Just ice skating. That's all I've done. And someone asked for a board game update, and I don't really have one, but I did play Underwater Cities a couple weekends ago, which is one of my favorite games. So it's just an engine builder that's like a different popular game called Terraforming Mars, if you know that. I'll just put a picture here of what it looks like. It's a card game with lots of symbols, and it's fun if you don't mind, working and doing math and keeping track of resources. But I am playing games this Friday, like when you're watching this with a friend and we're playing a new game. And I have no idea what it is, but it has a lot of my buzzwords, so I'm excited. So yeah, that's what I've been watching and playing. But honestly, my life has just been reading and ice skating and avoiding preparing my presentation for my defense. If you made it this far and just want to let me know you're here, leave a moon emoji for Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Oh, this book is just so pretty. I feel like computers do not like show the stunningness of this cover, and it feels so nice. It's just such a nice experience. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.